I was saying how number 3 and number 2 were very, very close. Resident Evil was very close to my number 2 pick, but there is one, there's a couple of things, but definitely like there's one thing that my number 2 game of 2021 did for me, that Resident Evil Village, I'm not gonna lie, almost did, but not quite. It's the fact that this game actually made me cry. Number 2 is Nier Replicant. I don't think I've actually ever wept this hard on stream playing a game that I did playing Nier Replicant. Maybe, I don't know, I'd have to go back and watch like some Kingdom Hearts 3 streams or something from when I first started. This game is just, it's beautiful. My first Nier game was Nier Automata, so that's what got me into Replicant. I think Nier Automata overall is the better video game, but I think Replicant has the better story and better characters. I didn't know a lot that would happen in this game. I kind of just knew characters that I knew I would see in this game from that I knew from Automata. So I knew Emil was a pretty important character in this game. I knew I was going to see Devola and Popola at some point because of their backstory in Automata, you know. I remember reading like the Project Gestalt reports in Automata, but I didn't really retain a lot of them, and I'm glad I didn't because I'm sure it probably spoiled some stuff for Replicant. But I'm actually glad I played Automata first, even though Replicant is the one that you should play first because this is technically the first one in the Nier series. But I'm glad I played Automata first, and I'll get to why I'm glad I played that first. There was because there was a revelation in Automata or in Replicant that I was like, oh, I only vaguely knew of this from Automata, but this makes so much more sense now. It's a fun game to play. It's really fun to play. It's the story for me that, because you know me, I'm a big story guy. I want games with good story and well-written characters and just a fleshed out plot. Like that's the stuff that I really enjoy a lot in games, and being able to immerse myself in these stories and interact with characters in the way that I can within these games. That's what I love about games like this. The soundtrack's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. One of the most beautiful soundtracks I've ever heard. There's just a lot of moments that just really just hit you. There's so many moments, man. Like, dude, like, of course, like, the Route A ending. Honestly, like, Route A was probably my favorite route just because everything was fresh to me in that moment. The Route A ending wrecked me. It's the story and the journey for me with this game. Because the thing about Nier, if you don't know, you've got to play through the game multiple times to fully get the entire context of everything. The twist at the end, whenever Devola and Popola, they turn on you essentially, and they're like, you're actually not even human. You are just the empty shell for the Shadow Lord, because you're actually the Shadow Lord's replicant. The Shadow Lord's like the main antagonist, but technically the Shadow Lord is, I guess, technically the main character? Because the Shadow Lord's the original Nier, and you are his replicant. Finding out that revelation was like, whoa, that was a twist. You know, there's a lot of really good twists in this game. And then it's like, well, now, like, what, like, I'm just an empty shell, but I need to save Yona. Like, you feel very conflicted. At least as the player, at least I felt very conflicted. I'm like, what? I want to be my own person. You know, I want to be my own person. Me as Nier's replicant, I want to be my own person, so I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to get to this later, but we're going to learn that there's actually consequences to that. So Route A, so what happens is you kill the Shadow Lord, and then you reunite with your sister, and it's beautiful, and I cried. Then you play Route B. And now you're getting a different perspective on just like a lot of these things that happen in the game. So for example, there's a moment where these wolves show up and attack this wedding, and it's a massacre, and it's like, we were invited to the prince's wedding. The prince is the homie. These wolves came, we're gonna kill these wolves. You go through Route B, and then you actually start to feel bad for the wolves. Because they're just trying to take back their land because like they were driven out. So now I'm crying over wolves that I was trying to brutally kill in Route A. Another twist I forgot to mention is that the shades that you're fighting, the enemies that you're fighting, were actually people that were like infected. To like the simplest way to describe it, like they're actually people. I think the gestalts of like the humans, and killing them basically you're basically just wiping them from you're slowly bringing humanity to an extinction. All these things you learn throughout the game, it's like, oh my gosh. And then you play through Route B, you see the Shadow Lord's perspective. And then you see, now that you know that he's the original Nier, you know, he kidnapped Yona. He kidnaps Yona throughout the game because like he just wants to get his sister back. Like he wants to get his Yona back. And it's really freaking sad. You also get like you learn more about Kaine in Route B and C. Kaine's final conversation with Tyrion in Route B, probably one of my favorite moments in the whole game. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Tyrion is the shade that like kind of possessed Kaine, but like half possessed her, but she kind of has control over him. So he kind of just like lives in her. I'm kind of probably butchering the lore a bit, but basically like this shade has like had such a voice in her life for so long. It was such a powerful moment where she was like, Tyrion, you're not the only voice in my life anymore. Nier, he like understands me, like he fights by he supports me. He doesn't care who I am or what I've done. And you know what? I'm gonna fight with him to the very end. And it's just like, it was a really powerful moment. There's just a lot of really powerful moments. Emil's a fantastic character. That's a whole other character that we could talk about. You start to see like these different perspectives as you're playing the game. And that's what makes it, even though it is very repetitive, I think it's more repetitive than, I do think it's more like repetitive and more chore-y than Nier Automata. But the payoff to the new revelations that you get after kind of working your way through some of this stuff again is so worth it. The wolves are being hunted by the humans and weren't exactly taking back their land, right? They both wanted freedom from either side of the equation, humans and wolves. Yeah, so Umbra knows the story better than I do. But you start to feel bad for both parties. Then you get to Route C, and you start to learn more about Devola and Popola. You get to kind of like learn more about them, but also it's like, it's crazy because like, I remember in Automata, the perception of them was like, oh, they did something in Replicant, and that's why they're so hated on in Automata by everyone around them. I was like, wait, no, it's actually not what they did, it's actually what they didn't do. I made a whole video talking about Devola and Popola. It's called Devola, Popola, and the Weight of the World. It's on my channel. Because I really love those characters a lot. You kind of understand them. Like you understand why they did what they did. You understand why they didn't tell the replicants that they were replicants. You understand why they kept so many things a secret, because they were actually trying to save humanity. And long story short, you find out that by killing the Shadow Lord, you are the one who actually dooms humanity. You are the one who causes humanity to go extinct. And that was a crazy revelation because, again, I played Nier Automata first. I didn't know that humanity was like extinct. Like, I genuinely thought in Nier Automata, I am fighting because the humans need someone, they're on the moon and we're trying to take back the earth and everything. When I found out that in Automata that humanity was extinct, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's crazy. Like that was a huge twist. That was a huge like twist for me. And so the whole time playing Automata, it's like, why am I even fighting? But that's, you know, that's kind of like a theme in the game is like, why am I fighting? In Replicant, I didn't know that I was the one who doomed humanity. And that was the craziest part. I was the one who made humanity go extinct. You as the player. And learning that, I was like, wow. You kind of look at your journey, it's like, I'm really the bad guy here. Like, am I actually the bad guy here? But then you have to look at it from Nier's perspective of like, he just wants to be his own person and he wants to live out his own life as well as the other you know? So it's like, man, it's really interesting. There's a lot of like just conflicting themes of like who's really doing the right thing here. And then Route E. Let's talk about Route E for a second. It was a little tough at first because like you have to play through like a good chunk of like the beginning of the game again, like a good like 2 hours, I would say. I'm not gonna lie, I was getting like pretty bored. I was like, okay, like what is this Route E? Like what's gonna happen? But then you get to that moment where Kaine's like knocked out and then like Nier's like reaching for her, and then instead of like actually pulling her out or like waking her up, his hand disappears and then she just sinks. And then it fast forward, now you're in present day and you play as Kaine, and then you just learn like all kinds of stuff. And like, I'm not gonna talk too much about Route E because I think it's better off just experience on your own. It was a really good ending. All these different routes, all these different perspectives. It made me really, I really cared for these characters. I think I cared more for these characters than I did the characters in Automata, even though I love the characters in Automata, don't get me wrong. But I just naturally gravitated towards these characters more and this story more. Dude, the game made me cry, man. Like, you know, I don't have much to say about the gameplay. Like, it's fun. It's a fun game. Like, it's a fun game. You've got magic. You hack and slash in. There's a parry mechanic, which I don't even think was in the Gestalt version. It's a fun time, and the story is worth it. It's worth going through all the routes because that payoff whenever you do learn something new, because you never know when you're gonna learn something new in this game. It can just happen super subtly, and it's like, I gotta be was I paying attention? Maybe, maybe not. Great game. Number 2, my second favorite game in 2021 that came out in 2021 that I played this year. You have your own motives, your own desires, and we have ours. I fear really is just that simple. That sums up so much. Devola and Popola did what they did because they have their own motives and their own desires. And I think what they did was right. But I also think that, you know, Nier, not knowing any better, I think he was also doing what was right. What he thought was right. Right? He didn't know humanity was going to go extinct from killing the Shadow Lord. He didn't know. He was doing what he thought was right. It really is just that simple. It really is.